Again, everybody, this is Pat Gallagher, and once again, we're speaking about the end times. Our study today continues Daniel chapter 2, the vision that Nebuchadnezzar saw in a dream where he saw an image of a statue with the head of gold, arms of silver, waist of bronze, legs of iron, and feet mixed with iron and clay. And we said in a previous video that the traditional world power succession of these kingdoms that were traditionally Babylon, Persia, Greece, Rome, and then a revived Roman Empire appearing at the end, the nations being part of this confederacy. And I talked about the problems of each of these identifiers, Persian not being able to fit the requirement of it being an inferior kingdom, as well as a problem with Greece being the bronze, and also how Rome really didn't smash all the others. Then I also talked about how if this traditional view of batting order for the statue is incorrect, then you cannot have this batting order for Daniel chapter 7. That is the rising of the four beasts out of the sea. I talked about that in a previous video, and I actually connected these beasts with the four kingdoms that came out of the broken horn of Daniel chapter 8 after the ram was defeated by the goat and the goat's horn was broken into four pieces. Four horns came out of the broken horn, and then a smaller horn came out of that, the Antichrist. But go on further with that, an alternative view of the last kingdom of iron being Greece. Looking further, there is another possibility, and that we get out of if we look further at the word image, and then we also look at the head of gold, and then the statement that Nebuchadnezzar is the king of kings. So if we look at that, you see the image is the same word used in Genesis, Zelem, and it means an idolatrous image. It was also used in terms of Adam and Eve being in the image of God. So we can say that this image that Nebuchadnezzar sees is an idol, but also in the image of somebody. And the clue to that somebody is the head of gold. Now, who is the head of gold? Nebuchadnezzar. And what do heads have that is very significant to identify who the head is? And that would be the face. So if this is the head of Nebuchadnezzar, then it has the face of Nebuchadnezzar. And so therefore, the whole statue would be Nebuchadnezzar himself. And this is sort of emphasized with the statement, King of Kings. And that says that King Nebuchadnezzar is actually king over the others. So not as he's king over the whole world, but king over the statue, and that the other ones follow him over what seems to be Babylon. Now, how does that play out? Well, Saddam Hussein himself, and I cover this in another video as alternate views of the Antichrist, Saddam Hussein himself thought that he was a direct descendant of Nebuchadnezzar. And that's basically, that was a point of pride for the Mesopotamian people, having this part of their cultures, thinking that Babylon would one day rise again would be something that they would all hope for. And since Nebuchadnezzar identifies him with something, this is something that the culture itself really pulls upon. So right away, with that in mind, this being an only Babylon statue, and only a Babylon image, that Rome, not being Nebuchadnezzar's descendant, you would have to rule them out, as well as Persia and Greece. And since we're going to go with purely indigenous Mesopotamian rulership, we got to separate the occupiers from the locals. And here we must look at a history of Mesopotamia. And of course, we begin with Babylon, followed by Persia. Then we see Greece emerge, and then out of Greece, the breakdown of the Grecian Empire, we see the Seleucid Empire, which ruled over Mesopotamia. And following that was the Parthians, and then following them were the Sasanians, and then the three caliphates, the Rashidun, the Umayyad, and the Abbasids. Then we see the Mongolians coming in and dominating until around 1335, and then other smaller dynasties taking over, but all those were not of Babylonian descent either. Then we see the rise of the Safavid Empire in 1501, followed by the Ottomans and then the British, and then finally the establishment of the Republic of Iraq in 1932. So looking at all of these, and we separate out the indigenous from the occupiers, right away we take out Persia, Greece, the Seleucids. The Parthians were actually Persians, as well as the Sasanians. And Sasanians wanted to invigorate an Achaemenid empire, which was another word for the Assyrian Empire. And then we see the Caliphate, the Rishtan Caliphate, they wasn't around long enough, and also didn't rule from the area. But the Umayyads came on the scene, but they didn't rule from the area either. They ruled more from Syria and then Lower Asia Minor. But the Abbasid Caliphate really caught my eye in the fact that, one thing, they ruled for a very long time, from 750 to 1258. And also they ruled from the area and from Baghdad. And as I said in a previous video, the significance of Baghdad in the world stage really caught my eye. But obviously we can rule out the Mongolian Empire as well as the Jalarids and Timurid dynasties. The Safavids, again, were another Persian incursion. And of course the Ottomans ruled from Turkey and the British ruled from Europe. And then we see the establishment of Iraq in 1932. So right now we have the Abbasids and the Iraqis being part of the statue, those being the only two kingdoms left. Now, one other thing about the Abbasid Caliphate is that they did rule over a considerable part of the world. Matter of fact, here's a map showing how far they ruled. They ruled from Libya all the way through Persia, and then up in between the two seas there, and also way down the Arab Peninsula. And that really fits the qualifications of the Kingdom of Bronze, which is to rule over all the earth. And as for Iraq being the last kingdom, we would have to say that this is a future event. With the other traditional view, we had to establish that there was a gap in prophecy which occurred within the legs, between the legs of iron and the feet of clay. The legs of iron being the actual Roman Empire, and then a revival of the Roman Empire happening at the toes, which would be the kings of the mixed of iron and clay. Now, in this case, the gap would occur right after the Bronze Kingdom. So that's how we would explain that. Now notice also that the iron and clay toes are not labeled as a fifth kingdom, as a part of the fourth and final kingdom. So you don't have a separate kingdom here. The legs of iron would in fact be a future kingdom. And then again, the gap would occur sort of at the knees. And it fits with the other prophecies of Daniel. In going into Daniel chapter 8, which is a vision concerning the end, and this is emphasized 3 times between verses 17 and 19, we see Greece destroying Persia, and his horn is broken. And then out of this horn, 4 other kings emerge, and then finally a smaller one out of one of those. And then that one grows in power. So you see an emerging horn. Again, there's no revival of an iron kingdom. It happens right at the end. And then this is the horn that actually sets up himself against against the Prince of Princes, and then he takes away the daily sacrifice. Then moving on to Daniel chapter 11, we see that a king appears, and that this king will do as he pleases, and exalt himself and say unheard of things against God. And then notice a connection with the time of wrath. This happens in the time of wrath. So again, there's no revival here. It's just that this is the Iron Kingdom. And then we see him further outlined in Daniel chapter 8 how he gives land out to those who serve him. And so that sort of fits. But again, this is not a revival of any other previous kingdom that happened in ancient times. And so if this happens, the legs of iron are definitely future. So now to sort of rule this out, you got to go back to a previous video where I talked about Daniel chapter 9, where the people of the ruler to come destroy the city and the temple. And I talked about how the Roman Empire came in and destroyed the temple. The key word there was people. And the Roman army wasn't made up of just Italians and Europeans. In fact, the legions that attacked Jerusalem, came from these areas. And also considering that 16,000, that was more than half of the actual army that besieged Jerusalem, were from these areas, these vassal kingdoms. And so this would be where they came from. And this is not anywhere near Mesopotamia. However, these people are Arab. And if you look at Daniel chapter 2, when it talks about the mixture, and again, I talked about this in a previous video, the mixture of iron and clay, the word there, out of all the 10 words that could have been used to describe mixture, some of them actually fitting even better to describe an actual mixing process, the word here is Arab. So we're looking at an Arab kingdom. Now, 85% of the population of Iraq is Arab. So again, it fits. It fits kind of, but again, it doesn't. At least at this stage of the game. I haven't fully researched this out yet. I might have to take a look again at the actual migrations of people that were involved in the siege of Jerusalem and find out exactly how big those kingdoms were, those vassal kingdoms. So that would require further research. But anyway, it's looking this way. Not quite. So anyway, your thoughts, your comments, maybe your insights. Until then, the Lord bless you and keep you. May he make his face to shine upon you, be gracious to you. The Lord lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace. Walk with the King in Jesus' name.